Welcome back. In this video we're going to check out radio buttons, and by the way, if you haven't watched any of the other videos of the series, check those out first. In this video we're going to see how to use the WPF radio buttons control, and this will allow us to make selections. For example, we can select either A, B or C, or however many options we're going to have. So you're going to see how to implement that using WPF and XAML, and then how to get the input that the user selected to then do something with it. Okay, and by the way, if you like this video or if you just want to help us out, hit that like button, it really helps us out, and the subscribe button if you aren't subscribed yet. All right, so let's get started with the video. You might know, well, depending on your age, how such a radio with radio buttons would look like, or a cassette player with those buttons. So for example, I guess this one will be a little more visible here. So you see we have a couple of buttons and you can only press one button at a time. So once you click one button, the other buttons will jump out, so to speak, except you're, I think, pressing the pause button and the play button or something like that. There was a combination that you could press that would work together, but all of the other combinations would basically just cancel any other button press, so to speak. And that is what a radio button allows us to do. Okay, so we can basically have a selection of a couple of buttons which belong together, and once we click on one, the others will not be active at the same time. Okay, so let's create a radio button demo for this, and I'm going to show you what radio buttons are, what radio groups are, and all of the good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to use a stack panel here once again. Grids are just too much work to set up for such a simple demo, so we're just going to use stack panels and a small label which is just going to say something like which is just going to say, who do you vote for? Okay, and then we have this small label here at the top, who do you vote for? Let's make it bold so we can see it a little better. So here font weight will be bold, and then I'm going to use radio buttons as promised. Okay, so this one will be something like Obama. Then let's create another radio button. That will be Trump. That one will be McCain or something like that. I'm not sure how exactly his name was written. Something like that, right? And then we have another one. Let's call him Biden. All right. So we have Biden or Biden. I hope I wrote it correctly. Maybe it was like this. I guess it was like that. So now we have these different options here. Okay, let's run our application and we will see that we have all of those beautiful radio buttons here. Obama, Trump, McCain, Biden. But now you see, because we only have one group, they are automatically handled like a proper radio group. Okay, but what if you want to have different radio groups? Okay, so who do you vote for? And then another one, well, how do you feel about it, or something like that? Okay, so I'm going to basically use this one, and this one will say something like, how do you feel about it? And this one will be good, and this one will be okay, and then maybe a third one which will be something like not happy. All right, so you had to vote, but you're not happy with the candidate, which definitely can happen. But yeah, whatever. So we have now these two options. We have these two groups. How do you feel about it? Good, okay, not happy. And now let's check it out, what the problem will be. So once we run this and we select, let's say, Obama, and then feeling good about it, you see Obama suddenly jumps out. And that is because we only have one group automatically by default. So by default just takes all of the radio buttons inside of our stack panel and treats them like one radio button group. So what you can do, however, is you can assign a group name property, which is a very important one, and you could call this one presidents. Okay, presidents. And I'm going to use this group name for all of those precedence statements here, or those options that we have here. And then I'll have another group name here, and that will be feeling, something like that. All right, so here, let me put that in here for all of them. And if I run this again, now I will be able to select one for the top level. So let's say this time I'm selecting Biden, and then how do you feel about it? And I'm okay with it, or I'm good with it. You can see now this one is treated like a separate radio button group. And this one here at the top is also treated like a separate radio button group. Now, of course, you can style those as well a little bit. So here font size could be a little bigger, for example, if you want to have it a little bigger in general. So the text will be bigger. And let's say I would like to use an image of Obama there. Now that's the beauty about radio buttons, is that you can not just use text in there, but you can actually use content. So if you can use content, you can go as far as to use something like a wrap panel, for example. And now you can position your UI elements in order to style such a button. Okay, so you could just go ahead and add an image here, and then that image will have a source. So let's take an image of Obama as a source. So there we are. That's the image that I'm going to use. It's a little too big, so let's change this size up a little bit. So let's make the width something like 30, and height, well, height is by default fine, I believe. So we have the image of him, and then I will use the label here, which will say Obama. Okay, so now it will be next to it, and maybe we should set the height to 30. Okay, so I'm going to set the height to 30. Now it will be the same height as the text for Obama. Quick pause. This video is sponsored by one of my courses. So you're learning something about WPF in this video, and I have a complete C# masterclass which teaches you a lot more about C# if you feel like you need to learn more about C# to understand everything that's going on. And then if you want to learn everything you need to know about WPF, definitely check out my WPF course. It's a 15-hour course which will teach you everything you need to know about WPF, building an entire Windows Store clone using my apps in order to achieve this Metro design, which is the design language, so to speak, for the latest Windows 10 applications. You can find a link in the description down below, and there you get a huge discount, so don't miss out. Get one of the courses or both of them now. And now let's get back to the video. And now if you look at it, it's all right, but I'm not super happy with this radio button icon here, this circle. So let's change it a little bit. And in order to center it, I'm going to vertically align the content. So vertical content alignment will be center. And now you can see that this little circle is in the center. And I think this is a lot nicer. Okay, so you can play around with this wrap panel now for all of the other presidents as well. So here you could go ahead and paste that in there as well, and just replace the label to, let's say, Trump here. And you could also change the font size of the whole radio button to make it bigger. You can see the label is automatically going to be impacted by this, as well as change the vertical alignment here like that. And now what is left to do is to use a beautiful image of Trump. I'm not sure how easy it is to find something like that, but I'm just going to search for it. And I personally really like this one here. Let me put that in there. You see, he looks angry, but I think that's fine at the current situation and the beginning of 2021. So yeah, that's how you can play around with it. You see the height is set to 30. Well, if you want to have the exact same size as with the other images, you could use a width property here as well and make sure that that one will be the same. 60 is probably not perfect, but yeah, you could really play around with it to find a good spot where they are aligned. And now, if we're talking about radio buttons, we also should talk about a very important, and if not the most important property that such a radio button has, and that is going to be IsChecked. Okay, so here you can set that to true. This will then automatically check Trump, for example. Okay, and IsChecked is also going to be a getter that you can use. So not just a setter where you can set the value, but you can actually, let's say we create a name for this radio button here, RB, and I'm going to call this one RB Trump. And then in my main window XAML CS file in the code behind, I can now get the RB Trump dot IsChecked value. Okay, so this will then return whether this property was checked or not, and based on that I can then run some code. So I could of course also use events here, so you can check out the different events that there are plenty, but the most important one will be checked. Okay, so here there's this event that will be triggered once it is checked, and then there is one that is unchecked. So what do we want to do if we check it? Well, what we could do is we could, for example, change this Trump label to be bigger, or to change the color. Okay, so let's do that real quick. So let's create a checked event. I'm going to call this one RB Trump checked. By the way, this is something that you can do by pressing Control and empty space. That will automatically create this event for you when inside the quotation marks. And now let me give this label a name. So this one will be the name. I'm going to call this LB Trump, LB standing for label. Okay, so now what we can go ahead and do is we go to our code behind here. We have this RB Trump checked, and here I'm going to check or set the LB Trump foreground to be selected, or maybe we can even use the background so it will be even more visible. Okay, so here the background will be something like brushes, which gives you colors if you type it correctly. And then let's say we use an aqua background for it, or some aquamarine background, like so. Okay, so now let's check it out. Once we check Trump, we should get this background for Trump. You can see now, we can see Trump is in effect selected. Once we select Obama, you can see this is not reverted. So we would have to also implement the is unchecked. Okay, so this is a little challenge for you. Implement the event is unchecked, or what was it? Unchecked, I believe it was unchecked. Implement this event and then change the color back to what it was before. Okay, so I hope you tried it. So here I'm going to create a new event handler for that. RB Trump unchecked. Let me go to my code behind. And here what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to change the color to white. So this will now change the background color to white once we uncheck Trump. So checking Trump and unchecking him by checking something else, you can see the background for Trump is white again. I believe this is enough for you to get a basic understanding of how to get this thing going. And now, as a little challenge for yourself, I would recommend to change the design up so that it looks in general a little nicer, so that whenever you select one of the presidents, that the background color of their text will also be changed. Maybe even not just the background color, but the complete selected radio button that you have selected here. Okay, so play around with this. This will really give you better understanding. And yeah, let's go over to the next video. Thanks for watching another part of our WPF series. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please leave a like. And if you loved it, then leave a sub. And also check out the next video in the series. You can always refer back to the playlist to find the next video that will help you out with WPF. And also, if you want to become a real pro in WPF, then check out the link in the description to get the full course.